I know I'm not alone when I say that Nintendo and the Wii U had a truly fantastic year in 2014 in terms of must-have software, and 2015 looks to only continue that way with some old returning favourites and some new faces too. I'm not typically one for loads of rules in these countdown videos, but the exception being that these games have to at least be confirmed for a Western release on the Wii U in 2015, regardless of how likely it may slip into next year. If you've recently purchased a Wii U, or are just curious with what 2015 holds for the system, then just take this video as a brief guide on what you should be looking out for. And obviously this is purely opinion based. I'm sure your favourites will greatly differ from my own, because that's just how opinions work. Number 10, Devil's Third. Now here's a game that's been long in development. Originally unveiled during E3 2010, Devil's Third was meant to come out on the PS3 and 360 and be published by THQ. You see the problem here? After many delays and multiple game engines, Nintendo picked it up and re-announced it at E3 2014 as a Wii U exclusive. But what is it and why should you care? Well, it's a hybrid of a first-person shooter and a third-person hack-and-slash action game, coming from a bunch of ex-Team Ninja devs, the same people who worked on Ninja Gaiden and the Dead or Alive series. So you can expect a lot of over-the-top action that doesn't take itself too seriously. Not much is known about the plot of the main campaign at this point, but it looks to take a uniquely Japanese twist on the tired globe-trotting military shooter, including online as well as full competitive multiplayer too. Devil's Third looks far from perfect, but it certainly looks like a ton of fun that will hopefully stick out in the Wii U's library for all the right reasons. Number 9, Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. I was a big fan of the early DS game Kirby and the Canvas Curse and had always hoped for a sequel on the 3DS, so I was pleasantly surprised to see Nintendo not only announce a sequel at last year's E3, but also for it only to be on the Wii U and sport this absolutely lovely claymation art style. The Rainbow Curse looks to play very much like Canvas Curse. Using the stylus to draw rainbow coloured lines on the Wii U's gamepad, you guide Ball Kirby to the end goal in a whole manner of ways. The unique difference with Rainbow Curse being on the Wii U is the added 4-player co-op, with 3 players controlling Waddle Dees on the TV in a more traditional style platformer, whilst player 1 uses the gamepad to draw the rainbow lines. Oh, and unlike Canvas Curse, Kirby can gain various transformations like a submarine, a rocket, and even this heartbreakingly adorable tank. The game is already out in Japan with a US release in the coming weeks, maybe even out by the time you see this video. Meanwhile, here in the UK, we're just given a vague sometime in 2015. Great. Number 8, Mighty Number 9. Anyone who's a fan of the original Mega Man game should surely be looking out for this one. Not only does it look and play like the old school classics, but it's also from the Mega Man's original creator, Keiji Inafune. In case you're unaware, Mighty Number 9 is a 2D side-scroller where you as a rogue robot, Beck, shoot a ton of enemies, take down the robot masters at the end of the level, and gain their abilities, to further your dominance in taking down more robots. So yeah, this is pretty much the next Mega Man game, albeit without the name itself. And don't worry if you don't own a Wii U, because Mighty Number 9 is coming to literally every other current platform going, even the 3DS and PlayStation Vita. It was one of those early Kickstarter success stories that hit multiple stretch goals, including an upcoming cartoon series based on the game, hopefully turning Mighty Number 9 into a long-running franchise for years to come. And that's a lot more you can say about Mega Man these days. Number 7, Yoshi's Woolly World. Initially announced way back in early 2013 under the tentative title Yarn Yoshi as a semi-follow-up to 2010's Kirby's Epic Yarn, developers Goodfeel went dark for over a year before re-emerging at E3 2014. That extra year seems to have given the game a lot more depth in its presentation, as now quite literally everything is made out of woolly yarn, with the only exceptions being the pins and buttons holding it all together. Gameplay-wise, Woolly World looks like it will be more or less a follow-up to the N64's Yoshi's Story, as you have a standard life system, rather than that irritating Baby Mario on your back. The game also features an interesting 2-player co-op, allowing players to swallow and throw their partners, enabling them to reach otherwise inaccessible areas. It all looks like cute and charming fun, and going by Goodfeel's track record, a solid 2D platform in its own right. Number 6, Mario Maker. For years, I and millions of others have wanted to create our very own Mario levels that actually feel like the real thing. And now that the 2D Mario games have grown a little stale in recent years, Nintendo are finally giving us what we've wanted with Mario Maker. The only fear is how much creative freedom the game is willing to give to the player. With games like Little Big Planet and Project Spark basically letting you create entire working games, Mario Maker definitely has a lot to prove. Previews of the game at last year's E3 cited that the levels were a little on the short side, as well as mentioning the lack of usable pipes. Thankfully, the most recent trailers since then have shown off a bunch of cool new features, including the ability to swap between 4 different Mario themes on the fly, which seem more than just for cosmetic purposes. With the ability to create and share custom levels, we could see some really cool user-created stuff, essentially providing us with an endless supply of 2D Mario levels to tackle. And what is not to love about that? Number 5, Splatoon. Don't let its colourful aesthetic fool you, Splatoon is shaping up to be just as strategic and deep as some of the best online third-person shooters out there. And there's more to Splatoon than just covering everything with your colour ink, as this gives you access to a whole host of ways to traverse the environment, letting you move on walls and jump over the entire battlefield. Of course, taking out your foes in the process also helps. And with the most recent trailer revealing a whole host of ink-based weapons and loads of character customization via the sprawling hub area, Splatoon looks like it'll have the legs to keep up a dedicated community. But on top of all that online stuff, there looks to be a solid single-player campaign mode too. And I'll be honest, this is what sealed the deal for me with Splatoon. There just looks to be a ton of variety in the multitude of colourful characters, not to mention the actual gameplay itself. It's unique, it's something completely new from a bunch of younger developers at Nintendo, and most importantly, it looks like a blast to play. Number 4, The Unlikely Legend of Rusty Pup. Originally scheduled to be released last year before being delayed, not much is really known about this new title from Conker's Bad Fur Day creator Chris Seaver and his team at Glory Detail, which is keeping me all the more intrigued. The developer's debut game was the wickedly sadistic Parachute Stand on iOS and Android, which you should totally download by the way because it's great, and Rusty Pup looks to only exude more of that Conker charm. But as mentioned earlier, there's really not a whole lot to go on. All that's been revealed so far are a select number of screenshots and the odd Vine video via Seaver's personal Twitter account. The game itself is described as a 2D puzzle platformer, which is being compared to the Lemmings games, but the main gameplay hook itself is tightly under wraps. Still, just by looking at its beautiful rustic art style is enough to make me want to play it. Given the secrecy of Rusty Pup, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't end up getting a full trailer until days before the game hits the Nintendo eShop. Either way, as and when it hits, everyone with a Wii U, 3DS or iOS device should definitely give The Unlikely Legend of Rusty Pup a look. Number 3, Xenoblade Chronicles X. Anyone who's played the original Xenoblade Chronicles on Wii will tell you that it's one of the greatest JRPGs of the last decade. So to get a quasi-sequel in HD on the Wii U is definitely something that anyone should be excited for. This time out though, you'll not only be able to explore much grander worlds, which look pretty sweet by the way, but you'll also be able to take command of these large humanoid mechs called dolls, which have the handy ability to transform into various vehicles such as motorcycles and even tanks. Just the sheer size and scope that developer Monolith Software is promising is really impressive, with these huge creature battles on land and the grander battles out in space itself. So yeah, X is taking a much more sci-fi orientated approach than its predecessor, which I'm definitely all down for. Quite how the story itself will tie into the original Xenoblade story is unclear at this point, or even if it would at all, but it's already sounding fairly promising. I just hope that the huge undertaking that is localised on X doesn't mean it gets pushed too far back after the Japanese release, which is already slated for 29th of April. I mean, if there's one genre that the Wii U needs more of, it's RPGs. Number 2, Starfox. Barely anything has been revealed to the public about the new Starfox game beyond the agonising tease from Miyamoto himself at last year's E3. It was only shown to a select few behind closed doors, not much is known about the actual direction that the series is taking, but what is known is that this looks to be the true sequel to Star Fox 64. The key differences with the gameplay are that it uses the gamepad in some rather unique ways, whereby you get a view from the cockpit to aim using the gyroscope, all whilst flying around using typical analog controls in tandem. It looks like it'll give you a much greater advantage when shooting down enemy ships during the all-range sections. Other new reported features are the ability to transform your R-Wing into the Landmaster in real time, as well as an intriguing all-new helicopter-style vehicle. Quite how well all this will be incorporated into Star Fox's existing mechanics is difficult to gauge at this early stage, not to mention if Nintendo have indeed found a co-developer to work on the game with them. Please be Platinum, please be Platinum. And number 1, The Legend of Zelda. Surely no one needs to be told why a new Legend of Zelda title is something to look forward to, especially when this one looks to be everything that Zelda fans want. A huge world to explore, gorgeous visuals, sweet new moves, and the freedom of tackling dungeons as you see fit, very much expanding on what A Link Between Worlds accomplished in 2013. Of course, not much more is known about the game, with its full title, story, and just overall placement in the much discussed timeline all still shrouded in mystery. Everything about its early showings are looking very promising, with the only major concern being that there's enough to do in the world for the final game. Personally, I'm hopeful that there will be. I mean, it's such a huge world that's already looking incredibly dense a year before release. Which, yes, Zelda games on Nintendo's home consoles have had a history for being delayed, but regardless of whether this new title slips into 2016 or not, the new Zelda game is easily my most anticipated Wii U game that's confirmed for this year. It's a new Zelda game that looks this good. I don't think I need to say much more. And I'm not going to. Well, thank you for watching my video on the top 10 upcoming Wii U games. Please let us know what your personal favourite is, we'd love to hear it. And if you want to know what other games I'm anticipating the most for on other systems that aren't just Wii U, then click the video to the left. Although, to be honest, some of them are Wii U games anyway. Or click the video on the right for my last countdown video, which is on the top 5 snow tracks in Mario Kart. It's still cold, so it's kind of relevant, I guess.